What's up, everybody? Jared back once again. And yes, I know I'm a little bit late to the game on the review of the Note 2, but here we are. And with that said, I've actually had a couple of weeks now to actually dive into this, explore it, play with it, use it, and get a real user's opinion of this particular device. So here we are, the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 on the Bell network here in Canada. So let's go ahead and get started with the out and kind of work our way in as usual. So we've got our massive 5.5-inch display coming in at 1280 by 720p resolution with a, 267 PPI pixel density with the RGB subpixel matrix that everybody has been begging Samsung for since the Samsung Galaxy S3. It also sports Gorilla Glass 2 covering it up, but in my opinion, there's actually quite a few scratches on this device, and I've been babying it, okay? Keep that in mind. Now, at the top of the device, of course, you've got all of our standard sensors and so on. We've still got the 1.9 megapixel front-facing camera, which does record in 720p if you decide to do so. And bottom of the device, of course, we've got our, you can't see it now, but if I was to turn that on, you've got your menu button and your back button, as well as your physical dedicated home button, okay? On the back of the device, we've got our 8 megapixel rear-facing camera capable of recording 1080p video at 30 frames per second, of course, and accompanying that is our LED flash. Down at the bottom is the speaker grill, just like the original Note, and of course we still have our S Pen, which has been redesigned, which we'll take a look at shortly. On the left side of the device, we do have our, if I can refocus this bad boy, we do have our volume rocker switch, which actually feels really, really nice, as well as our power buttons, or wake button, or whatever you want to call it. As far as the button placement is concerned, I think ergonomically they did a really fantastic job, at least for my hand, where I like to hold the device in my hand. I think it works perfectly. I wish the volume button was lower just a little bit, but maybe some people have slightly longer index fingers than I do. But again, that's nothing really to complain about, because the Note 2 is, in my opinion, more of a two-handed device than it is a one-handed device. Top of the device, however, we do have our noise cancellation microphone to accompany our 3.5mm headphones jack, and of course at the bottom we do have our regular pinhole microphone, so that people can hear you. We've got our micro USB port, which also doubles as our MHL adapter port, and of course we've got our S Pen located down there at the bottom, which just kind of pops out and sits in there nice and snugly. What else have we got? Oh yes, we do have a massive 3100 milliamp battery. As far as I know, out of the box, the only other device that has a larger battery is actually the Motorola Razr Max, coming in at 3330 milliamp hours, and that device is quite a bit smaller and, in my opinion, not nearly as powerful as the Note 2. So this having just 200 less milliamps, or MAHs, or MAHs, whatever you want to call it, is actually really impressive. It also comes with Samsung's new Exynos quad-core processor, clocking in at 1.6 gigahertz with LTE. Yeah! Also, to help that out, we've got a massive 2 gigs of RAM, which is absolutely fantastic. Alright, so let's get into the meat of the device, and you'll notice that I've actually plugged in the charger because it's starting to die on me. Yeah, I forgot to charge it, but don't let that be indicative of the actual battery performance. It's been fantastic. We'll get to that in just a moment there. You'll notice right away from the lock screen, we actually have our, just like the Samsung Galaxy 3, our lovely nature ripple effect swipe to unlock lock screen, complete with our 5 application shortcuts, which you can edit. And of course, swiping up from those will jump you into the respective application there. Now, before we jump into the rest of the device here, one thing I wanted to get out of the way first and foremost is the S Pen. If you're looking at this device, there's 2 reasons you're looking at it. 1, it's got a massive display, and 2, it's got an S Pen. The S Pen isn't for everybody. My opinions may differ completely from yours. If you're watching this for the first time, your opinion may be completely different from mine. If you're one of my subscribers, you know what I mean by this is my opinion, and your opinion may vary. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in. Now, I'm going to show you a few features that I like and think are pretty cool. I'm not going to show you all of them because that would be like a 30-minute video just on the S Pen alone. If you are interested in more videos on the S Pen specifically, go on YouTube, type in that search box, Galaxy Note 2 S Pen. There's hundreds of videos for you. yeah, so with that said, anyways, let's go ahead and jump in. So you've got a bunch of sort of templates here you can do, note, of course, right? Which, by the way, if you hold down the button on the pen, double tap twice on the screen, it'll bring up the little note feature, which I thought was extremely convenient. And actually, with that said, while we have that note open there, there's a little cursor that pops up. You may see it. You can see that little blue cursor. See how that happens? So I'm holding it about a centimeter away from the display, and which I think is really neat. And what that allows you to do is kind of hover over things, and it gives you the little description of what that is. Okay, so maybe I was like, what the hell is that window? And you don't want to click on it just in case you have an important note there and totally screw it all up. Just hover it over, and it'll let you know what each individual one does. And this actually works throughout the UI of the device. That's both with web browsing. You can hold it over those little drop-down menus, and it'll drop down the menu for you. And as well as, we'll go ahead and show you something here. We'll jump into the gallery application, and I'll click back, and it'll show you, ooh, geez, come on, get out of here, albums. All right, so hovering this over an album will also reveal a little, their respective thumbnails of the different pictures and stuff like that that are in there. One thing that is lacking, however, because this is a Canadian Galaxy Note 2, this is something I was extremely disappointed about, extremely disappointed with. Samsung shipped Canada a bunch of Galaxy Note 2s. In fact, every Galaxy Note 2 in Canada has been shipped with out-of-date firmware. The Galaxy Note 2s that were shipped to the rest of the world all had up-to-date firmware that also allowed Samsung to integrate the latest update, which enabled the multi-window viewing, which I'll explain in just a second. Now, with the lack of that update, there's a lot of features that we're missing with the S Pen, which I think really actually makes up half, well, not half, that's an exaggeration, but a big portion of the functionality of the phone. So, like I just mentioned, it is missing that multi-window function. I'm supposed to have a little tab here on the side, left-hand side of the display here, and by clicking on that, it reveals a little menu with a bunch of applications, and I can drag those applications, it'll open up on half the screen, and I can drag another one, and it'll display the application on the other bottom half of the screen, and then furthermore, you can actually resize those windows. That is true multitasking, folks. Unfortunately, we don't have that ability on the Canadian Galaxy Note 2s, and when asked, when asked about that update, Samsung simply replied, "We know you guys need the update, but we don't have any answers of when it's going to be released." Although every country in the rest of the world has that feature currently enabled on their devices. Now, there is one way to get around it, which is rooting your device, going onto XDA developers, and finding the leaked firmware. Yes, the firmware is currently available. It's just a leaked version, not completely finished, official by Samsung, but it is available to download. Another feature that we're supposed to have is the ability to scrub through videos. We'll go ahead and if we can locate a video here. Now, unfortunately, none of these videos are going to play here because they're like loaded on Picasa or something like that. I don't understand why. But nevertheless, you're supposed to be able to hover the cursor over the timeline of the video, and it'll bring up a little thumbnail that you can scrub through to find the location of the video you want to play. You go ahead and tap that location, and of course it'll play. We don't have that option here, which is, again, disappointing. Furthermore, that I wanted to mention, something that's really cool, actually, and I was just doing this because I did another take before this video, you actually have the option to switch between the keyboard here, which is really cool, actually. I do like Samsung's new stock keyboard. It's very similar if you take away the number key, but what they've done is add the number row there, which I think is really, really cool and useful. I think that more third-party, as well as even manufacturers with their native keyboards there, need to include the number row. It's not that difficult, people. Just do it. So my hat's off to Samsung for including this useful, although because I'm a SwiftKey 3 fan, that's what I use. But anyways, something we'll type in. So let's say, for instance, we're going to go jump into the S Pen so we can actually use the handwriting. So I could be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this down because it's really difficult. Hello. Oops, shit. I just swore. I'm sorry. That's okay. This is my channel. I can do what I want. How are you? Now, what's neat is that when you hover this cursor over, you can see, maybe, I'll see if we can bring it back in focus here. You see the little cursor there has now turned on that little line, which allows you to get a little more accurate in terms of, where you want to place the cursor to, so you can like make, changes and things like that. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I thought that was really cool. All right, so what else? Oh, yes, this is kind of neat. So one of the other reasons that I may use the S Pen is to take screenshots and things like that. Not so much screenshots, but snippets, right? So if I wanted to, I could hold down the button there, make a little circle. Of course, you can do whatever shape you want, right? Because if you're looking at a picture and you just want to cut out the guy's head or a car or whatever it may be, you can do that. It'll save it to the clipboard. Then you can go ahead and share it with your friends, which I thought was pretty cool. Another neat feature I thought was, say for instance, you wanted to get to a quick command. So we'll go ahead and swipe up from there, holding down the button, brings up these quick commands. So you can do something like draw the little question mark, give it a moment for it to recognize it. Now it puts it into internet searching mode. So then I could be like, weather. And what it's going to do now is start searching for the weather. I have no internet connection right now because I have airplane mode enabled to avoid any interruptions, but you get the idea there, which is pretty cool. Furthermore, if you want to, you can just go ahead and create that little up arrow and it'll bring up the settings. And say, for instance, you wanted to get back without having to actually hit the back button, just go ahead and draw that little symbol there and it'll bring you back, which is pretty neat. Furthermore, you'll notice also that all these things come out here, these icons come out depending on which applications you use with your S Pen. It'll put that down there. Of course, swiping to the next screen over, it brings up some different applications there. Sorry, the phone was actually quite out of shot there, so I gotta apologize for that. All right, let's tuck that back in there. Now that we're done with that, the S Pen, you guys may like it. I'm just not a huge fan of it in particular, but nobody said you had to use it if you buy the phone. If you're buying this phone just for the massive 5.5-inch beautiful display, that's cool too. So anyways, the phone has been really, really smooth. Quad-core processor, clocked at 1.6 gigahertz, 2 gigs of RAM. You're going to be pretty hard-pressed to see any lag. With that said, though, I have noticed with, yes, the live wallpaper enabled, there has been some drop in frames. And that's generally just when I am scrolling through menus and doing some web browsing. Other than that, I haven't really noticed anything other than that. Games have been absolutely fantastic. Of course, as you can imagine, on a massive display like this, this is the end-all of media consumption devices as far as smartphones are concerned. If you want anything bigger than you're looking at, the Nexus 7 or something like that. But as far as smartphones are concerned, this is definitely the king for media consumption. Games, Netflix, pictures, web browsing, the whole 9 yards. This does it all and does a very, very good job of it as well. Pulling down the notification tray, again, just like the Galaxy S3, you've got all your notifications there, toggles that you can choose from. And of course, this does come with Android Jelly Bean 4.1 right out of the box, which is always nice to see. Jumping into the settings menu here, they've done a really great job. Actually, something I wanted to show you guys that they've done some interesting things with something like the gallery as an example. So you can change the views around, which I thought was cool. That wasn't actually available on the Galaxy S3, which is now available on the Galaxy Note 2. And if you want to, this is kind of my favorite, the little spiral effect. Although it's not very practical, in my opinion, I think it's still pretty cool looking too. Before we get into the settings as well, I do want to touch base on the camera application as well. They've actually made quite a bit of improvements over the camera application of the Galaxy S3. I'm not going to go through all of them, but all you need to know about the camera application for both the Galaxy S3 and the Note 2 is that, you're just short of a professional photographer with all the settings that you have here. So many settings, in fact, that it actually rivals the settings on my Canon Rebel T3i. There's a lot of really, really great settings here. One of the features I like the most about, one of the new features I like the most is the fact that you can actually take slow motion recordings with this device and play them back, obviously in slow-mo, which is really, really cool to see. I like that a lot. Video recording quality coupled with the audio recording quality on this thing is bar none. I think the only thing that comes close, in my opinion, in my experiences, is the Optimus G. The Optimus G had some fantastic audio and lighting exposure transitions and things like that. This does a fine job. However, I noticed with picture taking, the pictures did seem to be a little bit washed out, and I think that maybe it cut out that the LED flash a little bit too slowly, which kind of overexposed some pictures. Nevertheless, I think it was definitely sufficient enough. Coming out of the box, it comes with all the standard Samsung applications that you would expect. You got S Voice, which is kind of redundant now considering we have Google Now, and a bunch of other things as well, which is kind of neat. One thing I did like is that when you plug in your headphones, you can actually set up actions. So if you plug in your headphones, you can have it actually launch any music application you want, things like that, which I thought was really, really cool. Like I mentioned before, the gameplay on this thing has been fantastic. Media consumption has been fantastic on this thing. I wasn't a huge fan of the stock browser that it came with, so I actually downloaded Dolphin browser, and it was lightning fast with this device here. What else can I say about this? Let's go ahead and jump into some of the settings that I really, really like. We'll go ahead and bypass all the wireless networks because I'm pretty sure we're all aware of what we have to offer. There, you got the blocking mode, which is found in the Galaxy S3's recent Jelly Bean update. Moving down from there, we've got some different sounds and display settings moving into here. You've got the Page Buddy, which you can turn on and off, which I was showing you before. But we've got, for instance, Smart Rotation, which is a feature that uses the front-facing camera to detect what angle your face is on and the device is on, and it'll actually rotate the screen depending on the situation, as well as Smart Stay, which was actually a feature that we found in the Galaxy S3 a while ago. We've got some different font styles here, not too many. I would have liked to see some more there, which is kind of neat. Adjust screen tone, that's nothing new there. What else have we got here? One-hand operation is actually something really interesting. A lot of people were concerned that maybe because it's such a huge device, there's going to be a lot of functionality missing because you're not going to be able to reach the entire display. However, one-handed operation setting here allows you to do all kinds of stuff. So you can enable the keypad in-call buttons. So say, for instance, I went in here, go into here. Now you've got that over there, and you can switch that over there if you like, depending if you're righty or lefty, which is always fantastic. It's nice to see that they included that for us. Jump back into settings here, I'll uncheck that. Samsung keyboard, same thing. If you wanted one-handed operation with the keyboard, you go ahead and select that, and it'll push the entire keyboard over to one side. Same with the calculator, same thing with the unlock pattern, which is fantastic. Moving on from there, of course, you got your cloud stuff, which we're not going to get into. Down from there, we've got motion. We've got a bunch of different stuff in here. Nothing really new, I don't think, that I've been able to find that we didn't already have in the Galaxy S3. So we'll get out of there. S Pen, so here's a bunch of the different options that you have. So you got dominant hand if you're right-handed or left-handed. There's the pen attach-detach sound. So if you have the pen outside of the device, maybe you're at the coffee shop and you happen to walk away and you forget your pen, your phone will notify you that you've walked away from your pen so that, well, you're probably going to want to go grab that thing, aren't you? Open pop-up note. Battery saving features, S Pen Keeper, you got Air View, which is that little cursor that shows up when you use the pen and you hover it like a centimeter over the display, sound and haptic feedback, some quick command settings, which I was showing you earlier that you can, customize what you want there, and so on and so on. So the device overall, in my opinion, has been really, really great. The device, the display is fantastic to look at. I love the huge display. Is it practical for me in particular? No. Is the S Pen practical for me in particular? No. However, a lot of people out there I can see would take huge advantage of both the massive amount of screen real estate as well as the S Pen features and functionalities of it. That 3100 milliamp battery does last a very, very long time. With severe usage, I was able to get about 9 to 10 hours out of it. And that's with really pushing it. Hours of gameplay, hours of Netflix streaming, and hours of web browsing. I've been really impressed with this device. TouchWiz is very, very familiar to the Galaxy S3. So if you're upgrading from the Galaxy S3 to the Galaxy Note 2, you shouldn't have any issues with transitions between the two. Fluidity from the device has been completely smooth throughout, both in applications, heavy resources, everything you can imagine to throw at this thing, it handles it very well, with the exception of some odd frame loss, but really nothing to complain about. I do also like the amount of sound that this thing puts out with its speaker on the back there. The speaker on the back is actually really, really loud. The Galaxy S3 I thought was decent, and I think that Motorola still takes the cake for having the loudest built-in speaker. However, I think Samsung's really starting to get up there and maybe even comparable or equal to the speakers on Motorola devices. I've been really, really happy with this device. The only issues I've been having is that the screen seemed to scratch easily. This is Gorilla Glass 2, like a lot of other devices. However, there are tons of micro scratches on this device, and the sort of chromatic bezel that they have, or chrome looking bezel that they put on this device, is kind of prone to chipping and scratching and is a little bit more noticeable than that of my Galaxy S3. Furthermore, The battery door here seems to take, God, man, that's dirty. The battery door here seems to take wear and tear not too well. I can actually peel it off from the side that you're not supposed to be able to peel it off from. And I actually have pretty short fingernails. So that was a bit disturbing to me, which basically just says, you know what, make sure you buy a case when you buy this phone. Other than that, oh, and the power button seems to have been mashed in a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it seems to be pushed in or recessed quite a bit more over that of the volume rocker. Anyways, with that said, I've actually overall been really satisfied with this device. You know, it's got that great screen like I mentioned before. There's tons of options. The speed is just stupid fast. Handles those live wallpapers, no problem. Handles heavy gaming, no problem. Definitely something to think about if you are in the market for a new device. If you don't think that you need a display that's that huge, you don't need an S Pen, I might recommend the Galaxy S3 or even some of the newer devices that are coming out, such as perhaps the HTC Droid DNA. But anyways, guys, that's my review and opinion. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff I've left out. There's a lot of great reviews out there. Again, check out my buddy What Would Josh Do's channel. He's got a pretty in-depth review of it, showcasing a lot more things than I'm able to showcase in this device because of that lack of firmware that Samsung has released to Canadian Galaxy Note 2s. Oh, one more thing I did want to touch base on, because this is running on the Bell network and they've actually recently, within the past couple of months, expanded LTE coverage to my area on the island here, finally. The LTE speeds have been actually pretty ridiculous. Ridiculous good, that is. I'm looking at around 18 to 20 megs down and about 3 to 5 megs up on average. I've actually been able to achieve higher, close to around 40. Unfortunately, I've done some dicking around and those speeds are no longer in the applications for me to show you. But nevertheless, take my word for it. This is an impressive device and it's something that you guys should really go and check out. I'll list a link in the description below if you're Canadian to the page for Bell Canada on their Galaxy Note 2. Go ahead, check it out if you want. But that's it, folks. I'm done talking. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me, and hopefully you appreciate my opinion. Maybe I've kind of made the purchasing decision a little bit easier for you guys. Again, remember, this is my opinion and review of the device. Your opinion may be completely different, and I may have left some things out. There's just so much to this device to cover. It's completely impossible for me to cover it all. That's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.